Hi there, this is Debbie again, and I'm reading The Go-Giver. Last time we read Susan, which was, Joe's wife, and that was chapter 9. So I just wanted to read a little bit about that note that she left because I think we all kind of got a little teary-eyed because he realized that was what his homework was, and even though it was close to giving up, he didn't. And she reads this note, or she writes this note to him, and she says, I hope I succeeded in slipping out without waking you. You deserve the extra rest after the earful I gave you last night. Thank you so much. Thank you for your generosity. And he's going, generosity? My sweet Joe. He read the rest of the note. I can't remember ever feeling so listened to, so heard. I love you. And that right there was what the whole thing that Joe was getting now, because it was selflessness. He gave himself to her, to listen to her, and he gave his time to listen to her, which was really sweet. That's all she wanted, just for him to listen. And so he had done his homework, even though he felt like he failed. He really didn't. So now, number 10, the law of authenticity. So go ahead and go about your business. You don't have to watch, you can just listen. But I'm getting really excited, so bear with me. I'm hoping I can read a little bit better each time I do this, okay? So number 10, the law of authenticity. What was it like? They were the first words either had spoken the whole 15 minutes they'd been on the road into town. Much like yesterday when he'd been unable to stop thinking about the office, Joe was now having a hard time tearing his mind away from Susan's note and her tearful area of woes the night before. Pinder's query caught him off guard. Sir, Joe didn't think he'd call Pinder Sir since their first meeting. Applying the third law, said Pinder, what was that like for you? It occurred to Joe that up to this point, Pinder had never once asked him anything about his homework or checked to make sure he was fulfilling the condition. So why was he asking now? A glance at Pinder told him the man was checking up on him. He was asking because he genuinely wanted to know. It's because he knows something happened, he thought. Something important. It went okay. I mean, I think it did. Honestly, I'm not sure. Pinder nodded as if Joe's response made complete sense. These lessons don't apply only to business, Joe. A genuinely sound business principle will apply anywhere in life. In your friendships, in your marriage, anywhere. That's the true bottom line. Not whether it simply improves your financial balance sheet, but whether it improves your life's balance sheet. I guess I never thought about that before. I highly recommend it. He glanced sideways at Joe. My wife and I, remember, have been married for nearly 50 years. 50 years, Joe echoed. 50 years. The man's marriage had lasted nearly twice Joe's current lifespan. Now, this is going to sound very old-fashioned. Pinder glanced at Joe again, as if looking for confirmation that Joe understood this. Okay, said Joe, nodding. I believe there is one reason and only one reason that we have stayed together so long and are as happy together today as if we were 48 years ago. More so, in fact, that reason is this. I care more about my wife's happiness than I do about my own. All I've ever wanted to do since the day I met her is make her happy. And here's the truly remarkable thing. She seems to want the same thing for me. Wouldn't some people call that codependent? Ventured Joe. Yes, some probably would. Know what I call it? Happy? Pender laughed. Yes, certainly that. I was going to say, I call it that success. Success, Joe thought about his life with Susan and how it had begun to feel like a constant drama of battle and compromise, 50-50s, a lasting proposition. Like what Sam says about networking, he commented. Exactly, Pender pointed out at the windshield. And here we are. Joe saw the huge auditorium looming ahead and turned into the underground parking lot. They were going to hear the keynote speaker as an annual sales symposium. It was one of the city's largest events, and it attracted participants from all over the country. Today's speaker, though, was a local resident. Her name was Deborah Davenport. The place was packed, but Pender had reserved 2 seats for them at the back of the large hall. Joe was impressed by the size of the crowd. He guessed there were a good 3,000 people waiting to hear the speaker. And she did not disappoint. After the symposium's master of ceremonies gave a brief, glowing introduction, the speaker stepped center stage to a standing ovation from the crowd. She waited gracefully until they had finished their applause and seated themselves. 12 years ago, I turned 42, she began. I got 3 presents for my birthday. One, my best friend gave me a $100 gift certificate to JCPenney's, which in those days was a high watermark of my fashion existence. She paused, looked to the right and to the left, then leaned forward towards the audience and struck a confidential just between you and me pose. And by the way, she added, JCPenney is still my #1 fashion experience. This was greeted by a round of laughter and a pause. She grinned at the wave. Everyone quiet. I mean, why throw your money away on overpriced fashion that'll just be obsolete next year? Am I right? Besides, ladies, she tapped her index finger a few times to her temple. It's what's inside that makes you beautiful, not the wrapping. Another wave of laughter and a pause rushed through the place. We're 60 seconds in, and she owns the room. Joe marveled to himself. Deborah Davenport continued. To my 3 kids pooled their money and got their mom an all-day, all-expense-paid retreat at the spa downtown. I mean, the expensive kind, all day. And they planned it so they had enough left over to pay the babysitter. In fact, for just a breath, she waved and seemed about to cry. In fact, they had called her and set it up so that she'd be there all day without my finding out ahead of time, which, knowing how noisy their mom can be, was a miracle of administrative genius and first-rate sneakiness. The crowd laughed a warm rustle of appreciation. 3, my husband gave me the most surprising gift of all. He gave me the wake-up call of a lifetime when he walked out the door and never came back. Joe felt the room take a breath and hold it. It took me 1 full year to unwrap, open, understand, and use that gift. She looked around and saw Joe, that she was meeting the eyes of an individual after individual, not only in the first few rows, but throughout the crowded auditorium. Today, I want to share that gift with every one of you. For the next 15 minutes, the speaker took them through her story. At 42, suddenly single and with 3 kids to feed, Deborah had never spent a day in the mainstream workforce. As a full-time mother, wife, and manager of a busy household, she had juggled dozens of skills and worked grueling hours. But as she quickly learned, none of what she spent the last 20-odd years doing what considered marketable. Everywhere I applied, she told the audience, I was overage and underqualified. After her husband left town, she spent the next few months pursuing a real estate license. Deborah was a quick study and passed the exam on her first try. The following 8 or 9 months were busy with learning and trying to follow all the advice and teaching of those in her firm. They taught me every kind of sales methodology and closing technique ever invented. I learned the direct close, the deal concession close, the time-driven close, and the trial offer close. They taught me the compliant close and the embarrassment close, the best time to buy close, and the never to buy best time to buy close, the courtship close, and the shame close. I learned every close from A to Z. She paused, looked around, then deadpanned. Oh, you don't believe me? A ripple of laughter sent through the first rows. Joe guessed there were some Deborah Davenport fans who already knew whatever rift might be coming next. Well, let's see, she began. She started counting them on her fingers. There was an assumptive close, the bonus close, the concession close, the distraction close, the emotion close, the future close. The people in the first row began to clap in rhythm. One clap to each newsletter of the alphabet. The Golden Gate Bridge close, the humor close, the IQ close, the Jersey City close. And now the whole audience joined in, making each beat with a loud clap. The kill clause close, the leverage asset close, the money's not everything close, the not or never close, the ownership close, the puppy dog close, the quality close, the reversal close, the standing room only close, the takeaway close, the underpriced value close, the vanity close, the window of opportunity close, and she took a big breath. The Xveria Hollander close, the Yaya Sisterhood close, and the Zsa Zsa Gabor close. Honey, I learned how to close. The rhythmic clapping dissolved into a huge round of applause as everyone laughed and cheered her bravura performance. She held her hands up, eyes twinkling, until the laughter and clapping had died down. And let me tell you what happened at the end of the year. I had not sold one single solitary property, and I hated it, every single desperate failing minute of it. The hall was silent. That Thursday, I turned 43. For this birthday, my best friend bought me a ticket to a sales symposium. Tell you the truth, I didn't want to go. But she was my best friend. She smiled, still is, by the way. And she beamed down at the first row, where Joe guessed the woman in question was seated. So what could I do? She awfully persuasive. Laughter from a cluster of women in the front confirmed Joe's guess. I went to the symposium. She looked around as if suddenly recognizing where she was for the first time. Actually, it was this symposium. Matter of fact, I sat right where you are all sitting right now on a Thursday afternoon in September, just like this one. All right, this chapter is a little long, so I'm going to stop right here and we'll pick it up next time. We'll find out what happens. All right, have a great day. Bye for now.